Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. Yeah!
Hi, welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. In this episode, I'm going to be talking to Alicia Stevens, and she's the Education and Training Manager over at Natural Chemistry. We're going to touch on what enzymes are, what phosphates are, and what clarifiers are, and when you would need to use them in your pool. And this is going to be a series of 4 podcasts with Alicia. I'm not going to really go into detail on the different products that Natural Chemistry carries in this podcast, but if you listen to the follow-up podcast, we're going to touch on Pool Perfect Max, and we're going to also touch on their Phosphore and Phosphore Max, and also their SeaKlear Clarifier. Pool Service Pro, open a Leslie's wholesale account today and receive wholesale pricing on products you use every day. Leslie's Pool Supply offers convenient locations that are open 7 days a week. Another great benefit of opening a Leslie's wholesale account is Leslie's referral program. Get referred to a customer looking for weekly pool service. Also receive priority service, enhanced rebate programs, a discount on your general liability insurance through SPA, a discount on your pool routing software through Skimmer, and an opportunity to co-brand with Leslie's on your social media, website, truck, and more. Save time and money and grow your pool service route and become a Leslie's Pro. So I'm joined today by Alicia Stevens. She's the Education and Training Manager of Natural Chemistry. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. So let's just jump right in. And your background, you want to just introduce yourself and your background with the company real quick, and then we'll go over some questions.
Sure. So I've been doing education and training in the pool industry for 20 years now. And then in the last couple of years, I have really focused in with natural chemistry and started a few different training initiatives with natural chemistry. And especially in the last year, we've been very busy with getting some education and training out to our customers. So I've been doing this training for a while, and I enjoy every minute of it.
And so I think one of the things that is confusing out there, we hear these words thrown out in the industry, and homeowners hear these words too.
So enzymes are they're a piece of pool care that I like to call a negotiable part of pool care, right? So you have non-negotiable pool care. You have to sanitize your pool, right? You have to oxidize your pool. So there's nothing that you can, that's stuff that you have to do. That's non-negotiable. But enzymes are a negotiable part of pool care that add a ton of value to the homeowner. So it's something that you really want to focus in on, what value does a product bring if you're going to talk about putting it in the pool? And it either, saves time, it saves money, or it creates a better experience. And enzymes are really good at adding value to the pool. So what an enzyme is, it's a protein, and it goes into the water and it breaks down non-living organic contaminants. So it's not in there to kill, it doesn't kill anything, but it goes into the water and it breaks down non-living organic contaminants. So some of the things that chlorine would have to break down if it ran into it, enzymes can break down and remove. So it takes away some of the distractions that chlorine has, and it lightens some of the load that we find on chlorine. So overall, enzymes go in, they help clean up some of the garbage that's in the pool, reduces the demand that you have for your sanitizer, and overall makes your overall pool program more efficient. So you'll see that when you put enzymes in a pool, you'll have better water clarity. You won't have that scum line that you get a lot of times around the edge of the pool, or a bathtub ring, as some people call it, because the enzymes are breaking that down and removing it.
I always say that enzymes are a chlorine enhancer. Is that kind of like a correct way of saying it? They enhance the sanitizer in the pool?
You have to be a little bit careful with how you say things like that, just because, chlorine is a registered product and you have to be careful with claims. But what we like to say is enzymes enhance your entire program chemistry, or our entire, program of pool care, but they certainly do reduce the amount of things that chlorine gets distracted by and gets broken down by.
And so it's not just the scum line that enzymes work on. They break down other things in the pool that free up the chlorine to be more effective. And I think one thing that people always say is the enzymes are mainly just for that scum line, but that's not true, right?
That's not true at all, no. When you're putting enzymes into the water, the scum line is almost an afterthought to what they do. Now that's, it's very visible, and people are very visual. So it's definitely something that we talk about, because no one likes to scrub that scum line off of their pool. But enzymes, that's just one piece of the puzzle. They are in the water breaking down so many different types of contaminants. They are great at bather waste, things that get left behind after pool parties, anything like that. So while it's keeping the scum line from forming, that's just kind of an after effect of the fact that it broke down all the contaminants that would otherwise form the scum line before they had a chance to stick to the wall.
So if someone has like a lot of people using their pool, they have suntan lotion on, all of that, an enzyme would be recommended for someone like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually have a program in place where we prescribe an enzyme in response to pool parties, pre-party or post. You either prepare for it or you recover from it. And also weather, when you get, some weather that comes through and maybe dumps a lot of dirt and debris and things like that into the pool, then enzymes are part of the process to help clean that up also.
And I noticed sometimes when I clean a cartridge filter, mainly a spa, but sometimes in the pool, it's like got this really slimy kind of gunky buildup on it. And that's probably from oils in the pool, I'm guessing. And will an enzyme help the filter also in that case?
Yeah, so what enzymes do is you'll see a lot less of that buildup because enzymes are breaking down what causes the buildup before it ever has a chance to get to the filter. So enzymes break things down into their very basic building blocks of what they are. So they don't need to be filtered out. They've just been destroyed. So you won't see that buildup in the filter, meaning you'll rinse or you'll backwash less often. You get less slime in your filter. You get longer filter run times because you're just not physically having to remove as much as you would otherwise have to if you didn't use an enzyme.
Got it. We'll just switch gears real quick. And with enzymes, you have in discussions all the time, you have phosphates and they have blended products also. We'll go into that in the other podcast. But, phosphates, you've heard a lot of this talk maybe in the last 10 years in the industry, where before, I started in 1988, no one even talked about phosphates back then. Should we be worried about phosphates? I know a lot of the old school pool guys are like, that's not true. You don't have to worry about that stuff. There's no problems. Is phosphate something that we should be worried about in a pool? And what is a phosphate? And we want to go over some of those details for us.
So phosphates, you say you started in 1988 and we didn't talk much about phosphates, but our world has changed a lot since then. So the environment has changed. The things that we put into the air and into the ground and things like that have changed. And phosphates have just become a bigger and bigger issue as we've moved through the years. So phosphates are absolutely something that you want to be concerned about. You want to test for them, know what your residual is, and you want to treat for them and keep the residual as low as possible. So if you don't remove phosphates in the water, they lead to just overall poor water quality. They cause problems. They make everything else in the pool more difficult to do because those phosphates are contributing to an environment where you have a lot of things going on that cause water problems.
I know phosphates are measured in parts per billion. Does that mean that they really affect the water much more than anything else because of that measurement? They're not measured in parts per million like just about everything else. Why is that parts per billion in phosphate significant?
Well, it doesn't take a lot of phosphate to cause a problem. So we measure low and we want to keep them very low. So at Natural Chemistry, we ask for them to be less than 125 parts per billion. That's low. That's almost no phosphate. And it's rather difficult to do, quite honestly, because of the environment and the fact that you're constantly reintroducing phosphate back into the water from a lot of different places. So we measure in the lower levels because like I said, it doesn't take a lot to start causing a problem. And it gives us a very low goal to aim for in order to make sure that the water quality is the best it can be.
And what are some of the sources that phosphates will enter the pool? How will they enter the pool? You mentioned there's many different ways.
Sure. So phosphates come from just about anywhere. A lot of bather waste will have phosphate in it. You get phosphate from fertilizer. You have your lawn treated and it gets into the pool, or your neighbor 4 doors down has their lawn treated and the wind has been blowing. So they come from a lot of different places. They can come from rainwater, groundwater, all sorts of different things. Some products actually contain phosphates. Products that we use in pool chemistry and pool maintenance actually contain phosphates, and that will add to your phosphate level. So you have to balance, do I want to use this product, which may do something very good for the pool, but then I have to deal with the phosphate it leaves behind.
And what's the best way to measure for phosphates? You mentioned the levels that you recommend to keep it at. How would a pool professional or a homeowner measure the phosphate level in their pool?
There's a lot of different ways. There's several different test kits that you can buy. They're just kind of a one and done. You can dip a strip, you can put a tablet in and test the color. There's some different technologies that you can use. A lot of the computerized water testing that you see now is testing for phosphates as part of that. So you might be reading a strip or spinning a disc or something like that, and a lot of those have phosphate testing on them also.
Okay, and so if the phosphate levels are, 1,000 parts per billion, the product they would use would be a phosphate remover. And how does that phosphate remover actually remove the phosphate from the water?
So there's only really one way to remove phosphate, and that's to precipitate it out of solution and physically get rid of it. So you're doing one of two things. You're dropping it to the bottom of the pool and vacuuming it to waste, or you're sticking it onto the filter and letting the filter grab and remove it. And then you're rinsing your filter off to actually get it out of the pool environment. So regardless of what product you're using, ours use the filter for the most part, but regardless of what technology you're using, if you're removing phosphates, you are physically grabbing it and removing it from the pool environment.
Got it. So I've done a test with my own pool where I brought my phosphate level up to about 1,500 parts per billion. Then I used the Phosphree to get rid of it. And I did notice sediment on the bottom of the pool. And did that mean that it actually worked? It was like almost like a fine dust on the bottom?
So what you're seeing is the product itself, the Phosphoree, reacting with the phosphate molecule in the water, and then it causes that precipitant.
There's no other way to remove the phosphate besides maybe draining the whole pool, but the phosphate removers are effective. I've tested them myself, so I know that they work. If you have a phosphate problem, definitely you want to address it. If you don't address the phosphate problem, what happens to the pool water?
So if you don't address phosphates, the problem just gets gradually worse and worse because, like I said, you're constantly introducing phosphate into the water. And eventually you've got poor water quality. So your water gets cloudy. It gets difficult to balance. You have a hard time getting your chemicals to work as they're supposed to. And you have a lot more problems in the water. So not taking them out leads to an environment where a lot of different problems can happen, cloudy water, etc., because the level just gets higher and higher.
I'll throw this out to you right now. A lot of pool professionals are dealing with pools with high cyanuric acid, which makes the sanitizer less effective, which leads to a lot of algae blooms. And would one remedy be maybe like a maintenance dose of phosphate remover, enzyme, something like that to kind of counterbalance that really out of balance pool? Because a lot of customers, when you say you need to drain your pool, they kind of balk at the idea. It looks fine to me. Why would I want to drain the pool? So how can you utilize, a phosphate remover and enzyme to kind of help in a situation like that?
So there's a lot of different views on the impact of cyanuric acid in the industry, which is a whole nother podcast in itself, I'm sure. But any time that you have an out of balance pool, just take it from that point, that anytime that you have an out of balance pool, all the extra insurance that you can give it will help prevent problems. So you hope you don't need your enzyme to break down contaminants, but your chlorine's not doing what you want it to. So the enzyme is helping make that better by breaking down some of the contaminants that would otherwise just build up. You hope you don't need the fact that phosphate removers take out a lot of dirt, debris, garbage, phosphates that contribute to poor water quality because your chlorine and your oxidizer might have been taking care of that, but because your pool is out of balance, you're relying on that to help you out. So they're both, as I said, negotiable parts of pool care. They're not something that you absolutely have to have in order to maintain a pool correctly. However, they make pool chemistry more forgiving. They make it a lot easier to take care of, and you'll have a lot more problems because you've got extra steps in place then so that you don't have cloudy water, you don't have algae problems, you don't have just overall problems in the pool.
If you have a balanced pool and you want to have extra insurance, you can use those products too, right?
Yeah, I didn't say it's not something I didn't mean to imply it's not something you need if you don't have a problem. My point was if you do have an environment that causes problems, it gives you some extra help. No, enzymes and phosphate removers as a maintenance product are some of the best things that you can do for your pool chemistry because everything else in the pool, your sanitizer, your oxidizer, is going to work more efficiently and is going to be better able to do its job. So you'll find your water balance is easier, which is ultimately your goal. You want it to be in balance. You want your sanitizer working effectively. You want your oxidizer breaking down contaminants. And when they're able to do those jobs, along with enzymes breaking down contaminants, phosphates removing contaminants from the water so that you don't have problems with them, then they all work together as kind of a group or a program very synergistically to make the pool as clean, as clear, and as easy to maintain as possible. So phosphates and enzyme removers, some of their biggest value is as a maintenance product before you have problems, not as a reaction to a problem.
And I think a lot of times people get the impression that the pool employees were upselling by selling phosphate and enzyme removers, but in reality, they're actually helping a lot of homeowners keep their pool balanced and really enhancing the whole pool experience. And that's one of the things that I think highlights that, is that if you have a balanced pool, adding a phosphate and enzyme will keep it even more balanced and make it easier.
And we say, in order to sell a homeowner something, you have to show value, save time, save money, or create a better experience. Enzymes certainly save time by breaking down contaminants, so you're not scrubbing the sides. They save money by not using as much of your other chemicals that you might have to add because they have to break down those contaminants. And they create a better experience because your water is more clear. You have less problems with it. Phosphate removers the same way. They save time, they save money by keeping problems from occurring, otherwise where they would if they weren't in the water. And they create a better experience by just contributing to overall better water quality. So clarity and ease of maintenance. So you just got to show homeowners value. If you just keep pushing chemicals at them without telling them what they can offer them, yeah, they're going to feel like you're just selling me stuff. But there is a lot of value to be found in these products.
And I think we should emphasize that point. When you're spending resources or your money on a certain product like phosphate and enzymes, you're going to be spending less of those resources and money on chlorine products, algicides, things like that. So it's not like you're buying the phosphate and enzymes and then buying chlorine and algicides at the same level. There's a good trade-off with your purchase of the phosphate and enzymes.
Yes, and it's, a pound of prevention, or an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of chlorine, we say, right? And this is our ounce of prevention. So you're putting that in so that you're not using as much. So yes, it is a trade-off. Spend a little bit to put enzymes and phosphate removers in the water, and then you spend a lot less dealing with the problems that could otherwise come up in the pool.
Last, let's touch on clarifiers real quick, because you hear this a lot. A lot of times when someone has a cloudy pool or they're having problems, the answer is add a clarifier. What exactly does that word encompass when you say a clarifier?
So a clarifier is simply a product that goes in, and there's a couple of different kinds of clarifiers that we can talk about in one of the other podcasts, I think. But what a clarifier does is it goes in and, again, physically removes dirt and debris of a wide variety from the pool. So clarifiers, their job is to take smaller particles that might otherwise pass through the filter, or we have a hard time catching a hold of them to get them out of the water, and they clump them together into bigger particles. And when that happens, those bigger particles then hit the filter, they stick to the filter, and they're easy to remove. So you can clean up a mess, dirt, debris, etc., dead algae, a lot faster when you use a clarifier because it clumps together all of the dirt and debris.
I guess I would say all three would be a trifecta, right? Enzyme, phosphate, and clarifier would all add to the ability to balance your pool easier.
It's the trifecta is the best approach to removing as much overall contamination through a wide variety of technology, right? Break it down with enzymes, physically remove phosphates, physically remove anything that gets left behind with a clarifier. So you're removing all of the garbage so that your chlorine really just has to go in and kill bacteria, which is what we want it to do. First and foremost is keep swimmers safe. So we remove as much of the distraction from that job as we can, and then everything else becomes more effective.
Yeah, so if Natural Chemistry comes out with a trifecta product, remember I mentioned that name here first. That way you get credit at least.
There we go. Okay.
So if you want to stick around, Alicia, we'll record some more podcasts on specific products that Natural Chemistry sells. And this will actually, I'll use the word enhance again, enhance this particular podcast, because then you're going to break down the individual products you're going to use for situations for the listener. So if they can tune in for the rest of the episodes, we'll cover the product specifically.
We might just talk about that trifecta.
Yeah. I'll have to get my lawyer on that one. So I hope you found that helpful. And if you tune into the other podcasts in this series, We're going to talk again more about the specific products that Natural Chemistry makes. You can learn more about Natural Chemistry and their products at naturalchemistry.com. And definitely I urge you to visit their website to read more about their products. And if you're interested in the other podcasts in this series, you can definitely look at the description of this podcast or go to my website, swimmingpoollearning.com. And on the banner on the homepage, there's a little podcast icon. And then there'll be a drop-down menu with the different podcasts that I've recorded. And you can find these podcasts that are coming up on the specific products listed there. And if you're in the industry and you want to enhance your business, definitely think about the coaching program that I offer. You can learn more about that at poolguycoaching.com. A lot of great benefits for joining the program, including the ability to text me and call me, and you get a discount on your general liability insurance. Again, you can learn more about that at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great rest of your week, and God bless. Pool Service Pro. Open a Leslie's wholesale account today and receive wholesale pricing on products you use every day. Leslie's Pool Supply offers convenient locations that are open 7 days a week. Another great benefit of opening a Leslie's wholesale account is Leslie's referral program. Get referred to a customer looking for weekly pool service. Save time and money and grow your pool service route and become a Leslie's Pro.